All right, what's up, everyone? Back again with another MCAT question of the day. Today's question is actually similar to a previous question we've had, but it's a lot more application-based, so we'll get straight into it. It says ADH is a hormone that is released when you are dehydrated. It causes reabsorption of water in the kidneys. The structure of ADH is shown below, shown right here. Which of the following functional groups is not present in ADH? And then we have 5 answer choices. And again, so this is going to require us not only to understand functional groups, right? So the first thing we have to understand is functional groups. But it's going to do functional groups in a biological context, right? Because before we might be used to recognizing functional groups on normal molecules, but now we actually have a biological molecule that's in the body of a human. It's a hormone. And we have to understand it and see what functional groups there are. So this, again, is what makes this a perfect MCAT question, because it's combining organic chemistry with biology, and that's pretty much something that the MCAT loves doing. So with that, I just want to give a brief insight into ADH. So as you'll see right now, this is what I've drawn right here is a nephron, right? Nephron. And the nephron has different parts to it, but basically what happens is, there will be things that enter the nephron, that go through the nephron, and eventually everything that exits the nephron becomes what I like to refer to as pee. So whenever you pee, you're basically secreting everything that has been filtered through your nephron. But what ADH does is ADH causes reabsorption of water in the collecting duct. So the collecting duct is this last part of the nephron that I've drawn here. And what ADH does is that it goes there and it binds to some receptors and it causes reabsorption of water. And what do I mean by that? What does reabsorption of water? And what I mean by that is water leaves the nephron and comes back into the body. Because remember, I said that everything that is in the nephron will be eventually leaving your body as pee. But if water gets reabsorbed, that means water is not going to end up being in the actual excrement that the nephron produces. Rather, it's going to end up going back into the body. Because remember, this is your body here. And the nephron is actually going to be the thing that's filtering things out. And so when you take water out of the nephron, you're reabsorbing it back basically into your body. And so that's basically what ADH does. I just wanted to give you a brief context before we actually get into the functional groups. So remember, we had 5 answer choices, and they included, amino, hydroxyl, carbonyl, carboxyl. So now I'm going to go through all of them and kind of show you how to see how to connect the dots, how to go from something that's organic chemistry based all the way to something that's biologically based, okay? So an amino group is what I've drawn here. It's basically a nitrogen atom in the middle, and it can be connected to one carbon chain, which is this R. Remember, any R you ever see is always a carbon chain, okay? So this is a carbon chain, and then in this case, the nitrogen is connected to 2 hydrogens. But these 2 hydrogens can also be carbon chains, but it's just that in this situation, we just have them as hydrogens. And so this is an actual example of an amine molecule. So this right here is an amine molecule. And this is a molecule that you'd see in organic chemistry, because you see that the nitrogen is bonded to a hydrogen, and then this whole thing is that R chain we're talking about. Remember that R, this R right up here, is the R chain that's actually a carbon chain. So now let's go to our molecule of interest, which is the ADH molecule. Do we see any amino groups here? Remember, it has to be a nitrogen connected to a carbon chain. And I'm sure you see quite a few, so let me just circle some. So if you look right here, it's right up here. This right here is an amine group, right? If you look, I think that might actually be the only amine group. There might be another one. I might be mistaken. Oh, no, there's one here. So this right here is also an amine group. So you'll see that, yes, amine groups are present in ADH. Amines present. Okay. Next answer choice there was hydroxyl. Are there any hydroxyl groups? So a hydroxyl group consists of an oxygen bonded to a hydrogen, and then the second thing the oxygen needs to be bonded to is a carbon chain, right? It's carbon chain. So this is, again, a very rather simple group to find because all you have to do is look for one oxygen, and then the first thing you have to do is the oxygen bonded to a hydrogen? And if you're yes to that, then you have to look for the second thing. Is it bonded to a carbon chain? And, we can do a real-life organic chemistry example here because here is a alcohol group in action. You see that this is an oxygen bonded to our hydrogen and our carbon chain, right? This whole thing is a carbon chain that the oxygen is bonded to. So now let's look at our ADH molecule in the top right corner. Are there any hydroxyl groups in this molecule? There's a lot going on here, and you might be thinking there might not be, but you have to be very careful. Look at this guy. Look at this at the corner of this of the right image. Very, very right corner of the image. That right there is a hydroxyl group, right? Because look at what the oxygen is bound to. It's bound to this hydrogen, right? It's bound to a hydrogen, and then it's bound to a carbon, basically a carbon ring. Because remember, in organic chemistry, any corner that you see, any distinct vertex is usually a carbon. So what I'm outlining right now are all carbons. So this is actually a hydroxyl group, and therefore there are hydroxyl groups present in our ADH molecule. All right, let's move on to the next functional group, which is carbonyls. What is a carbonyl group? So a carbonyl group is literally this. That's it. It's a carbon double bonded to an oxygen. Carbon double bonded to an oxygen. All right. If you ever see this anywhere in a molecule, this is a carbonyl group. Okay. Carbonyl. It doesn't matter if it's connected to a carbon chain. It doesn't matter if it's connected to a hydrogen. These R's are irrelevant. Okay. That is irrelevant for a carbonyl group. If you really want to just know what I'm talking about, here is an example of a normal organic chemistry molecule at the lower left-hand corner. The part that's highlighted in red is the carbonyl group, and we don't care about anything else. So as long as you literally have a carbon bonded to an oxygen with 2 bonds, that is a carbonyl group. So now let's look in the upper right-hand corner. Are there any carbonyl groups in this molecule? Well, you bet your butt there are. And that's here, right? Here. Got another one here, here. There are a ton of carbonyl molecules. As long as you have carbon bonded to an oxygen with the double bond, it's a carbonyl group. So clearly there are carbonyls present here, right? So yes, they are present. So now let's go to the next one. What's the next functional group? Disulfide bonds. Disulfide bonds, first of all, you should know they're between 2 cysteine residues. So cysteine is an amino acid, right? So basically an amino acid with sulfur in it, and that's why cysteine is unique. It's one of the only 20 amino acids that has sulfur in it. And then when you have 2 cysteine molecules, right? So this is cysteine 1 right here, so I'll label it 1. And this is cysteine 2 right here, and I'll label that 2. When those 2 cysteine residues come very close to one another, these thiol groups, these sulfur groups, can actually bond to one another in what's known as a disulfide bridge or linkage, depending on what you learn. So this is a disulfide bridge. And it happens between 2 cysteine residues. It's an oxidation reaction because you'll see that 2 electrons are released. But the point is, you can get disulfide bridges. But what the key takeaway is that disulfide bridges are 2 sulfurs connected with a covalent bond. Are there any disulfide bridges in the upper right-hand corner? Let's check. I'm going to start going through the molecule, and yes, right here, look at that. Right? See that disulfide bridge right there? S bonded to an S. So it is a big deal. And we did just find out that, it's not anywhere else in the molecule, but there is a disulfide bridge, and there's exactly one. And so by the process of elimination, the functional group that is not present in this molecule is going to be the carboxyl group. What is the carboxyl group? A carboxyl group is going to be a carbon, right? See this? In the upper right, I'm outlining it. Carbon double bonded to an oxygen, so it has a carbonyl group in it, but then the carbon also has to be bonded to a hydroxyl group, okay? So it literally has to be like this, okay? And this can be whatever you want it to be. It doesn't always have to be a carbon chain. It can be a hydrogen, okay? But it has to be either a carbon chain or hydrogen. So if you look here, we have another example in the lower left. This is a carbonyl group. Carbon double bonded to an oxygen, and then the other bond is to a hydroxyl group. And last but not least, this is an R chain, right? This is an R chain. So that's a carboxyl group. But do we see a single carboxyl group when we look in the upper right-hand corner here? Believe it or not, you will not find a single carboxyl group. There is no carboxyl group because there's nothing that looks like this, okay? With a carbon, obviously in the middle. There's nothing that does that. So there is no carboxyl here. And so when we go back to our original question, which was asking us, which of the functional groups is not present in ADH? We proved that aminos was there, hydroxyl was there, carbonyl was there, disulfide was there, but carboxyl was not there. So E is the best answer. And so with that, we just reviewed some OChem, we applied it to a very intricate and biologically relevant molecule, and we got the right answer, which is E. So I hope you guys found it helpful. See you in the next one.